prepaid legal care to Legalshield. And I just think what a great analogy that truly is. And finally, I really love it because I get to help people with cost-effective solutions that suit them. Sometimes it's a letter. I'll talk to a Legalshield member. I'll get a referral, being at Mills & Mills and doing litigation, and say, did you make sure to get a letter yet? Maybe a letter would take care of this. Maybe you don't need to retain me even at a discounted rate. Why don't you go back and try to do a letter before you even get there? And then I'm good. So it really is nice. Thank you. It really is nice to have those tools available. Now, if you permit me for a moment, I just want to, well, I should say the last thing, why I appreciate Legalshield. I do have 4 kids to pay for, as well as their education. So it's a win-win all around. But I'd like to share a story about a client that came in through Legalshield. This individual was an immigrant from another country, worked very, very hard in Canada, purchased some good stocks, made some very good investments, and throughout his life he had 2 children in another country and had given them a significant amount of their inheritance for their wedding, as was custom in the culture. And so when it came time for him to start planning what he was going to do when he passed on and did a will, he started typing up a document that looked beautiful. It said last will and testament. It had some great legal verbiage with some withertos and here's so for, all the good stuff. And he then provided in the will to give a little bit to his daughters, but the majority of the money was going to be to his son, who had actually helped him here in Canada and grown a business with him. And it was just sort of what he believed to be fair. I mean, it is his will. He can do what he wants. So he drafted it up very nicely, signed it with a beautiful pen, and dated it. When he passed away, the family went and found this will, or document I should say, and they went and did the distribution as it was done. Well, it wasn't too long after that they were done and had spent the money. It's amazing how that happens for any type of inheritance, which you don't expect all of a sudden you spend right away. They then got a letter from a lawyer representing the daughters saying, we've got a problem here, this isn't a will. And that completely changed what the distribution was. So when the family had come to me, they were now being, the estate trustee was actually being sued for having given out this money. And I looked at the document, and yes, it was typed nicely, it said all the nice words, it was signed, it was dated, but it wasn't a will. Because the requirement for wills in Ontario is that if it's typed, when it is signed, it needs to be witnessed by 2 people who are independent beneficiaries. It actually would have been different if he had handwritten it, but instead he printed it out on his computer. And so the family then was left with a situation where they spent tens of thousands of dollars to settle this matter out. It meant that the person who passed away didn't really get what they had wanted done. The legal fees were spent through this. And we got a resolution, and in fact, the clients, and one of the things I enjoy in my profession is they became friends over time. It's great working with people in difficult circumstances because you get to meet them as they are. But at the end of the day, I couldn't help but think, what would have happened if that person, that father who had worked so hard, had spent 15 minutes talking with a lawyer without worrying about what the cost would be to say, hey, this is what I was thinking about doing. How much better would it have been if they went to a lawyer to have this large estate done properly and saved all these legal fees on the other side? Or yet, even better, what if they actually got their will done as part of their legal services plan? Wouldn't that be amazing? Something that we do have to do. So, just a bit about me and my background. I'm a civil litigator. I was looking for a place to article after finishing at U of T, and went to Mills & Mills. Here's a firm, been around since 1888. Sort of regular interviews, nice doors, nice computers, nice desks. And as I was talking with one of the associates, she said, we're also doing something called PPL. Have you ever heard of that? And I said, PPL? Well, that does ring a bell. I had a part-time job at a country club up in Thornhill and used to set up for a weekly meeting for PPL. So I looked a little bit and I said, I actually think I know something about that. So I got hired on as an articling student, and I enjoyed the diversity of questions that you got from Legalshield lawyers. In the beginning of the morning, it would be something for an employment insurance tribunal. In the afternoon, it would be something for a slip and fall. It was all over the place, and it was amazing as a student to stretch myself about where to get information. I learned very quickly, when you call a government organization, you make sure to call a couple of times because you get very different answers when you call. But in any event, I've been blessed to have then started there as a lawyer, as an associate, and had the benefit of many referrals come in through Legalshield and an opportunity to help many, many different clients. And now as a partner, I was just talking to Mr. McKenzie earlier, saying it really is nice as a partner to know we're in partnership with Legalshield and do things together and dream about the future. We've gone through a great renovation recently and just want to continue to grow. But what the story that I told you about this individual showed me was, here was somebody that was being smart, or so they thought, by trying to do a will themselves. And they were scared about calling a lawyer, probably. I can do this myself, save some money. And I think that's endemic of what we've got. So there's a couple of quotes up here. I won't read all of them necessarily, but I just want to highlight this bottom one in particular. The most advanced justice system in the world is a failure if it does not provide justice to the people it is meant to serve. Access to justice is therefore critical. Okay, remember that is from our Chief Justice, Beverly McLaughlin. Okay, so we're not talking about somebody that is on the outside, questioning the system. We're talking about someone who runs the court literally. Now, the problem is, for most people, this is what justice looks like. How tall are you? You know, and the question here today that I've seen is, is it $300 for a consultation? Is it half an hour consultation, but if you spill over, if you talk too long, if the lawyer gets you a coffee, are you now paying a bunch more money? Well, wouldn't it be amazing if you could pay, I don't know, $30 a month, $35 a month, and be able to get into the door on that and speak with a lawyer? And I think that's part of the genius of Legalshield. It's looking at lawyers in a different way of pooling resources so that height, I guess we could probably ratchet it down to about here. Now, remember, Beverly McLaughlin, she is saying, as long as justice has existed, there have been those who have struggled to access it. But as Canadians celebrate the new millennium, it became clear that we were increasingly failing in our responsibility to provide a justice system that was accessible, responsive, and citizen-focused. Reports told us that the costs, delays, long trials, complex procedures, and other barriers were making it impossible for more and more Canadians to exercise their legal rights. That's in 2013, she said that. That's in an age of the internet. That's in an age of apps. And yet we still have a significant need that's out there. This is a quote from the Chief Justice of the Court of Appeal from Ontario, the individual who ran the courts in Ontario. What does he say? An overwhelming consensus that if it's going to survive, it needs to undertake a significant change. A lot of recognition about what needs to be done. A lot of recognition